I never meant to cheat, but my body didn't agree. That was the first line in my wife's journal, and it hit me like a steel-toed boot to the chest. All I wanted was to send a file. My laptop was in the shop, so I borrowed Emily's, my wife's. She was in the shower. The laptop sat open on the kitchen table, screen still glowing. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until I noticed a Word doc still open. The file was named My Journey. I was going to close it. I really was. But the cursor was still blinking at the end of the last line, like she had just typed it. And I read it. From that moment on, I lost my wife. Not because she died, but because I realized the woman I had loved for 7 years had never really been who I thought she was. I just sat there, frozen, heart slowing down with every word she wrote. Each sentence was a knife. Not a quick stab, more like a slow, cold puncture straight through the ribs. She wrote everything, in detail, the hidden feelings, the secret meetups. Room 304 at the Rosemont Hotel, again and again. It shredded me from the inside out. All the things I thought I knew. Every airport call. Every gentle, don't stay up too late, okay? It was all just a coat of glossy paint over something rotten underneath. But what crushed me most wasn't even the fact that she cheated. It was the way she described it. There was no love, no emotion, just physical pleasure. A silent agreement between two people who wanted nothing more than each other's bodies. No strings, no guilt. Until she wrote, and the sad thing is, I don't even feel guilty anymore. I didn't scream, didn't break anything. I just sat there, one hand resting on the cold keyboard, feeling a kind of emptiness crawl deep into my bones. There was a part of me, raw and wrecked, that wanted to smash the laptop. But there was another part, a colder one, much quieter, and that part had already started making plans. If you've ever believed loyalty meant safety, this story might shake you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because these are the kinds of truths people rarely say out loud. I'm 36. I work as a project manager for a construction firm across state lines. The job keeps me busy, traveling often, sometimes for a few days, sometimes a whole week. My wife, Emily, is 32. She works in marketing for a big consumer brand. She's sharp, charming, always juggling new campaigns and packed deadlines. But at home, she was thoughtful. Soft smile, gentle voice. Everything just enough. Not too much. Not too little. We'd been married for 7 years. No kids, not because we didn't want them, but because there was always something that wasn't quite ready. At least that's what she said. I never pushed. Our marriage wasn't fireworks or grand romance, but it felt steady. We didn't fight. No drama. There were quiet dinners, movies on the couch, reading side by side. She liked candles and soft jazz. I liked silence. It worked. I used to think, if stability had a shape, this was it. That day, I came home earlier than usual. A meeting got canceled last minute. Emily was in the shower. I had to send out a financial plan before EOD. My laptop was in the shop, so I grabbed hers. It was always sitting on the kitchen counter like usual. That should have been it. But then I saw the file. My Journey. A Word doc left open. Not locked. Last edited less than an hour ago. I don't know why I didn't just close it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe instinct. But I read it. And everything began to fall apart from there. The first few lines in Emily's journal didn't mention names or places. Just scattered thoughts about loneliness, about a growing emptiness inside the home we shared. She said she didn't blame me. I hadn't done anything wrong. I worked hard, paid the bills, was kind, considerate. But that kindness, as she put it, made her feel like she was living with a close friend, not a husband. She said I was always too gentle, too careful, too proper. And because of that, she slowly forgot what it felt like to be wanted. To be held like someone you could lose, to feel alive inside her own skin. She wrote, "Sometimes I want to be pulled in tight, pinned against the wall, to feel a man's breath on my neck. But instead, he just rests a hand on my back and softly asks how my day was. I used to think I was a good husband. I wasn't unfaithful. I wasn't angry or cold. I didn't yell, didn't nitpick, and I never said anything to hurt Emily, even when we didn't agree. I always believed that loving someone meant making them feel safe, and I did everything I thought was right. I let her handle all the household finances, gave her a high-limit credit card, and never questioned a single purchase. She mentioned liking a new perfume line. I bought the whole set. Saw her post about an expensive yoga class on Instagram. I signed her up without being asked. I didn't do these things to win her over. I did them because I felt guilty. I was away a lot. There were weeks we only FaceTimed 3 times, never more than 10 minutes each. I knew she was alone. I knew she needed someone physically there, but I couldn't leave my job, so I tried to make up for it in the ways I could. I still remember those rare Saturday nights when I wasn't traveling. I'd cook dinner, pour some wine, dim the living room lights to a soft golden glow, then wrap my arms around her from behind and kiss her neck gently. She'd usually smile, lean back, place her hand softly on mine, but that was it. Her presence always felt just a little distant. There were nights I wanted to be close. I never rushed. I was always gentle, always slow. I asked if she was okay, if she felt comfortable. She never said no, but she never really said yes either. Just laid there, quiet, not pushing me away, but not holding on either. Now, reading those lines in her journal, I finally understand. She'd already left, maybe not physically, but emotionally, mentally. Her desires, her hunger, her restlessness had gone far beyond where I could reach. Maybe I was too soft. Maybe I was too controlled, too careful. I wanted her to feel loved, but the truth is, what she needed was something I never had the courage to give. His name didn't show up until a few pages in. Mason. Emily never said outright who he was, but I knew. Her boss, tall, broad-shouldered, moved like someone who never second-guessed himself. We'd shaken hands once at a company holiday party. He was there with his wife and 2 young kids. They looked like the picture-perfect family. Hell, I thought so too. Until now. Emily said it started at a farewell party for a colleague, some small downtown bar. She hadn't even planned to go. Those loud, rowdy events weren't really her thing. But out of politeness, she said yes. She wrote that she felt tired that night. Didn't bother doing her hair, just threw on a fitted black dress and some old heels. But the way Mason looked at her when she walked in made her feel seen. The bar was noisy, lights flashing, the thick mix of sweat, alcohol, and pulsing electronic beats filling the air. She didn't like that kind of energy, so she drank faster than usual. The cocktails tasted more like juice than booze until the 3rd one hit. Her skin turned hot, cheeks flushed, the music slowed in her ears, but her breath came quicker. Mason sat nearby, lazily spinning a glass of whiskey. They started with small talk, work campaigns, office gossip, a few half-jokes about the colleague leaving, but at some point, the space between them shrank. When a bass-heavy song kicked in, Mason placed his hand on her back, light enough that she could have walked away if she wanted to. But she didn't. She wrote that her mind went blank the moment his fingers touched her skin. Her whole back lit up, a strange kind of heat crawling over her. She knew something was happening, and the worst part was, she didn't want it to stop. They left the bar just before midnight. No one asked where they were going. No discussion, just a look exchanged beneath the yellow streetlight. Then both slid silently into the same cab. Their destination, the Rosemont Hotel, discreet enough that no one would ask questions. Room 304. As soon as the door shut behind them, Mason grabbed her. No sweet words, no slow buildup. Just 2 bodies crashing together with pure, reckless force. Emily said she didn't feel like herself anymore. Every button that came undone, every breath against her skin felt like a match held to dry leaves. Mason didn't go slow, didn't kiss gently. He shoved her against the wall, pinned her wrists tight enough to leave marks. And when he pulled her down onto the bed, it all hit at once, fast, wild, uncontrollable. She wrote about every touch, every reaction, the way her body arched toward him, the way moans caught in her throat, not from pain, but from shame, from desire. Every move Mason made awakened something in her she thought was long gone, like every nerve in her body had been asleep for years and was now waking up, raw and electric. She said she didn't think about me, not once, not our marriage, not the vows, just the man in front of her, taking her in a way I never had. I didn't know I could still feel that way, she wrote. It was nothing like being with my husband. I felt held, owned, torn apart, and I liked it. When it was over, Mason got up first. She stayed on the bed, staring at the ceiling, drenched in sweat, throat dry as dust. She knew she'd crossed a line, broken something sacred. The next morning, she woke up tangled in wrinkled sheets, her head pounding. She didn't speak when Mason walked past her into the bathroom. She just got dressed, buttoned up in silence, and stepped into the hallway, heart hammering out of rhythm. She thought she'd feel shame. She thought she'd be disgusted with herself, that she'd want to claw the memory from her skull. But the scariest part? She felt nothing. No guilt, no tears. Just one sentence, playing over and over in her mind. I finally felt alive again. If you're still here, you're probably feeling what I felt. Quiet rage, bitter clarity. Hit that like button or share this with someone who's been through betrayal too. They'll understand. Emily wrote that when she got home that night, she stared at our wedding photo above the bed and panic set in. She said she kept repeating to herself that it was a mistake, just a weak moment, something she needed to forget. But the memories from that night clung to her. Mason's eyes when he pressed her against the wall, their tangled breaths, the scratch of bed sheets against bare skin. The more she tried to push it out of her mind, the clearer it became. Like her body itself had memorized it, held it in every nerve and bone. She said she felt disgusted with herself. The guilt sat like a stone in her gut, cold, heavy, but it didn't break into tears the way she expected. Just a crushing silence that followed her all day. And then, 3 days passed. The feeling didn't fade. It didn't dissolve like she had hoped. It changed, from disgust to longing, from trying to forget to wanting more. She wrote, openly, without apology, I hate that I want it, but I can't stop thinking about it. About the intensity, about the way he threw me onto the bed without asking, just hands gripping, body demanding. I remember the way I arched up without thinking, the way I moaned and bit my lip from shame. I remember every breath. They met again a week later, not at a bar, not in some shady setup, just a regular morning, running late, bumping into each other at the cafe near work. They hesitated, then went inside together. Mason picked a booth tucked in the corner. He stayed quiet for a while before speaking. No apologies. No tenderness. He just started talking about his wife, a kind, patient woman, a full-time mom who gave everything to the kids but had nothing left for herself. He said it had been 2 years since they'd been close. She went to bed exhausted. Conversations were reduced to preschool forms, grocery lists, and meal plans. His voice was flat, tired. I don't blame her, he said. She's an amazing mom, but I'm still a man. I still have needs. And I feel like I'm dying in that house. Emily didn't reply, but she understood. She wrote that in that dim morning light, they looked at each other for a long time. No one confessed. No one asked for anything. But the decision was made. She called it an unspoken agreement. No feelings, no promises, just release. Two lonely people pulled together by instinct, nothing more. From that day forward, they met every Thursday. Same place, the Rosemont Hotel, room 304. Mason always booked it in advance. He'd arrive early, turn on the AC, play soft jazz, pour 2 glasses of red wine. His cologne lingered heavy in the air, woody, smoky. She said the scent would stick to her skin long after they were done. She described that room as a separate world. No clocks, no consequences. Just flesh. One time, he brought a box. Inside were small toys. Things that made her blush the moment she saw them. But she didn't say no. She wrote, "I forgot I could react like that. I forgot my body could still tremble from a single touch. I let him do everything. And I didn't feel the need to apologize for it." Emily repeated in her journal that it wasn't love. There were no sweet words, no morning texts, no holding hands in public. Just once a week, she came back to herself. To a part of her that had been buried for far too long. No love, no fantasy, she wrote. Just release, just reclaiming the body I'd neglected. By the time I reached that page, I was still sitting at the kitchen table, lit only by the last streaks of evening fading through the blinds. My hand was still resting on the cold keyboard, and inside me there was no more shock, no rage, just a quiet kind of emptiness like scorched earth, nothing left to hurt, and nothing left to save. I stopped reading at the final lines, where she described how they always parted after their meetings, no clinging, no affection. Just a brief touch of the hand and a half-hearted whisper, "Next Thursday, okay?" I didn't read any further. I didn't need to. I opened my work email and sent the journal file to myself, a single copy. Then I closed the laptop, slowly, carefully. Like if I moved too fast, something inside me would explode. Emily walked out of the bathroom a few minutes later. Her hair was still damp. She smiled and asked if I'd finished sending my file. I nodded and said I needed to step out to call my boss. I didn't look at her when I spoke, and somehow I kept my face calm, even though inside I felt like a hollow well with no bottom. I left the house, drove without knowing where I was going, eventually parked in the lot of a nearby grocery store and just sat there, engine off, no music, no AC. For nearly an hour, I sat in silence. My mind was blank, no screaming, no images of them together, just a white space. So cold it felt like I had stopped breathing. The part of me I thought would yell, rage, break something. It didn't show up. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't need her to confess. I just wanted to see the truth, unfiltered, undeniable, and let it speak for itself. I said nothing to Emily in the days that followed, kept to our usual routine, kissed her on the cheek in the morning, texted her to ask if she'd eaten lunch. I think she felt relieved. Maybe she thought I didn't know. Maybe she told herself it was small, that as long as she was discreet, it wouldn't matter. I let her live in that illusion, for one more week. Then on Wednesday, the day before their usual meetup, I drove to the Rosemont Hotel. I booked room 304 under a fake name. Paid in cash. The front desk didn't ask questions, probably used to it. The room was smaller than I expected. Gray walls, carpeted floors, a plain white bed, window facing the parking lot. I spent nearly 2 hours figuring out the best angle to hide the camera. I finally mounted it on the ceiling light fixture near the air vent, high enough not to draw attention, clear enough to catch everything. Not because I wanted to watch. I had read enough. But I needed proof. I needed someone else, someone like me who never saw it coming, to see. When I left the hotel, the camera was live and running. That night, I didn't sleep, not out of rage, but because I was stuck in a strange, bitter stillness, a warped kind of anticipation. Some part of me wanted them to come. I needed them to come. I needed to see with my own eyes what had, for months, only lived inside her words. The next morning, I woke early. Said little to Emily. We had breakfast like usual. She wore an off-white blouse and black slacks, a touch of soft peach lipstick. She kissed me lightly on the cheek before heading out the door. I stood still, watching it close behind her, not even breathing, just waiting for the clock to tick toward the inevitable. That afternoon, I arrived at the Rosemont Hotel 10 minutes before them. Parked across from the entrance. Reclined my seat just enough to stay unseen. I remember it exactly. 5:46 p.m. Mason stepped out of a black SUV, gray shirt, loosened tie, leather briefcase in hand. He glanced around briefly before striding into the lobby. Less than a minute later, Emily appeared. She walked in from the side lot, hair down, face touched by sunlight. Still in the same outfit from that morning, except now with a shorter pair of heels. I saw her smile when Mason held the elevator for her. No hesitation, no caution. Everything about them said routine. They stepped inside together. The elevator lights stopped on floor 3. That night, I didn't watch the footage right away. I couldn't. Not while the sky was still light. Not while she was still awake in the next room. I waited until past midnight. Once Emily was asleep, I went into my home office. Turned on the screen connected to the device I'd installed. The first part was quiet. Just the hum of the air conditioner. A few creaking footsteps. And then, the door opened. Mason walked in first. Coat off, briefcase tossed onto the chair like it was his private office. Emily followed, locked the door behind her, slipped off her shoes, and walked over to the table where 2 glasses of wine were already waiting. They clinked glasses. No small talk. No kiss right away. Everything about it felt unsettlingly casual, like an old married couple settling into their end-of-day routine. A few minutes later, Mason stepped behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. She tilted her head back slightly, let him. And then, just like that, they began. I won't describe the rest. I don't need to. There was only one thing that shattered me completely. It was the way she smiled, soft, brief, but real, not mocking, not performative, just content. Her body had come alive again, not because of love, not because of Mason, but because she'd found something her legal husband, the gentle companion, no longer reached. I turned off the video as they lay together afterward, holding each other like it was the natural end to a productive day. I didn't throw up. I didn't smash anything. I just stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then I moved the file into a private folder and renamed it, simply, Evidence, Claire MP4. I opened my email, typed the address, hit send. No message, no explanation, just the file. Because now, I wasn't the only one who knew. Mason's wife is named Claire. I found her Instagram through an old post she'd commented on, some company holiday party photo. Her profile showed tired eyes, a loyal posture. Most of her photos were of her kids, her son playing soccer, her daughter sketching with crayons. Nothing flashy, nothing staged. A mother, a wife, a woman being deceived in plain sight. I sent her a message, no long speech, just the video, unedited, and a PDF copy of Emily's journal entries. One sentence, direct and clean. I figured you deserved to know, because I had to. She replied less than 2 hours later. I'm throwing up, but thank you. 3 days later, Claire asked to meet. We picked a quiet cafe, far from the city center. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her eyes were dark from lack of sleep. She held her cup like someone who'd survived the night but hadn't quite come back to herself. But her voice was calmer than I expected. She said she'd suspected something. The late nights, the unfamiliar perfume lingering on his collar. But she never dug too deep. She said it was like standing over your own grave with a shovel. You know what's there, but you're not ready to uncover it. We didn't trash talk them. We didn't trade war stories. We didn't need to. We just agreed on one thing. If they could do this in the dark, then we had every right to bring it into the light. Claire was the one who said it first. I don't just want them to lose each other. I want them to lose their image. And that's how the plan began. Quiet, measured, but sharp. Like a thin blade peeling back the paint they'd used to cover up the filth beneath. Emily's company hosted its annual gala on a Friday night at the Grand Crest Hotel, a formal event to honor top-performing employees. Claire was among them. The ceremony was elegant and public, attended by senior executives, high-level partners, and the families of those being recognized. Every invitee could bring a spouse. It was the perfect setting for what I had planned. I came with Emily. She wore an emerald green satin dress, fitted just enough to highlight her shape while still maintaining a refined, tasteful look. Her hair was curled and pulled into a low side bun, lips painted with earthy nude lipstick. She wore the earrings I gave her on our 5th anniversary, one of the few things from me she still bothered to wear. She knew she'd be recognized that night. So did I. Mason came with Claire 10 minutes later. Claire wore a black square-neck jumpsuit that showed her shoulders. Her hair was tied up neatly. No red lipstick, no strong perfume. But from the way she walked, you could tell she knew something was coming. We ran into each other at the registration table. Just a nod, no smile, no handshake, no words. But the look we exchanged said everything. The plan was in motion, and we didn't need to say a thing. Inside, the ballroom was warmly lit. Tables dressed in white linens, fresh flowers, wine glasses lined up perfectly. Emily touched my shoulder whenever she greeted someone, introduced me like I was still her proud husband. I smiled, played the role. No one suspected a thing. No one knew what lay beneath the surface. The night moved forward. Dinner, executive speeches, the usual corporate fluff about a record-breaking year. Then came the awards. Emily was called up near the end, for excellence in market strategy. She stood, smoothed her dress, turned to me with a smile that said, "I did it." She walked up to the stage. I stood too, calm, measured. Told the MC I had a few words to say, as the husband of one of the honorees. I took the microphone. The room quieted. Emily took a small step back, her smile faltering. I thanked my wife for her patience, her care, for standing by me all these years. I said she was gentle, devoted, the kind of woman who always put family first, that I was proud to be standing beside her tonight. There was light applause. Emily smiled, but her eyes started to shift. Then I paused, turned to the back of the room, and gave a nod to the AV tech holding a USB. I said I had a gift, for her, and for everyone here. The screen lit up. The first slide appeared. Screenshots from her journal. Not rewritten, not stylized, just raw photos. The file name visible. The last edited timestamp clearly shown. I never meant to cheat, but my body didn't agree. I remember the feeling of being slammed against the wall, the sound I made before biting my lip from shame. I don't feel guilty anymore. The room went silent. Utensils froze. A glass shattered somewhere on the floor. Phones quietly rose to record. Emily stood frozen, face pale, her hands starting to shake. Then came the video, footage from room 304, clear as day. Emily walked in, took off her shoes, smiled at Mason. They clinked glasses. And then, I didn't need to play the whole thing. I stopped the video just as Mason wrapped his arms around her. Emily collapsed on stage, not crying, not screaming, just hollow. Claire stood up, walked straight over to Mason and slapped him, hard. The sound echoed. Then she pulled out a folder from her purse, divorce papers, and threw them at his chest. He stood frozen, still holding a half-drunk glass of wine. The room was dead quiet. I returned to the mic, spoke one final sentence. Thank you all for listening, and if any of you are out there doing something in secret, just remember, someone's always watching. I set the mic down and walked off the stage. The video leaked that very night. Not the full footage, but enough. Clear enough to reveal the setting, the faces, and the kind of relationship they thought would stay hidden in the dark. No one knows who shared it first. Maybe a guest who recorded the event. Maybe someone from the tech booth. Doesn't matter. Within 24 hours, the clip had surfaced on Mason and Emily's company intranet, under the title, "Congratulations to our Employee of the Year." HR called an emergency meeting first thing Monday morning. Mason was suspended indefinitely. A formal warning was circulated to upper management. Emily, while not in a leadership position, was pulled from every campaign she was working on. She called in for leave, then quietly shifted to unpaid status for personal reasons. Her work email was deactivated, her nameplate removed from her desk. Word spread like wildfire, not just inside the company, but through the entire local marketing scene. Industry blogs started whispering. Some defended her, some condemned her, but mostly, it was silence. That heavy, suffocating kind, where everyone knows, but no one wants to be the first to say it out loud. I didn't make a statement. I just did what needed to be done. I froze all secondary credit cards, changed the bank passwords, changed the locks on the house. My lawyer filed for divorce Monday morning. No conversation, no warning. Emily vanished from social media. For nearly 2 weeks, no one saw her. I found out only by chance, through a message from her sister, telling me that Emily had been staying at her house in the suburbs. She barely left the guest room, spoke to no one, answered only to family. A week later, I got an email from her. Just one line. "I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to tell you sooner. If you're willing, I'd like to see you. Just once. Not to ask for anything. Just to be honest." I agreed. Not because I needed an apology, but because I believe what begins in truth should end in it too. We met at a small cafe near our old neighborhood. It had changed owners since we last came. She arrived before me. No makeup. Thinner. Eyes sunken. Still neat. White blouse, beige coat. But she no longer had that shine that used to make her light up every room. She told me she was in therapy, that she had thought about ending it all more than once. But every time she saw her niece's face, she stopped herself. She didn't say much else, didn't blame me, didn't beg. She just said, "I hurt you, I hurt myself, and there's no one left to blame for that." I nodded, asked nothing. She gripped her coffee like she was trying to hold on to the last bit of warmth. Then she looked up and asked, "Do you still hate me?" I answered after a pause, "I don't know, but I don't think about you first thing in the morning anymore. So maybe that means I've let go." She nodded, didn't cry. When we stood up, she bowed her head. Deeply, not out of apology, but like someone finally broken, for real this time. I watched her walk out into the damp, gray afternoon, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing. No pain, no rage, no regret. Just done. And if there's one thing I've learned to close this story with, it's this. Betrayal doesn't always get punished right away. But eventually, it walks onto the stage, under the lights, with nowhere left to hide. If this story hit you somewhere deep, share it, subscribe for more, and remember, truth always finds its way to the light.